Good evening, everyone. This is Kathleen Lee back for our third Share My Story interview. And I hope you are joining us this evening. You're doing well and you are not in the heat like I am in Phoenix, Arizona right now. We are having a huge heat wave. I think it's been like 118 degrees. So I hope you all are well and staying cool wherever you are. I'm excited for this interview tonight. I met Emma through our Instagram account and through talking about the Share My Story initiative. Now, if you don't already know, the Share My Story initiative for Dancing with Ed is all about stories, and it's about experiences. You know, one of the goals that I have for Dancing with Ed is to be a place for dancers where they can talk about their eating disorder. They can talk about some similar shared experiences that other people may have had, because I think that creates a sense of community for us that we so desperately need. Me being a survivor of an eating disorder, a former classical ballet dancer, I can really relate to what so many of you have experienced. And whenever I share my story, I always feel a little less alone. Every time I meet someone who has had similar experiences, they feel this. They say the same thing. So the Share My Story initiative is weaving a tapestry of all of our stories together, creating a sense of community. Stories teach, they heal, they connect people. We really want to change the narrative around eating disorders and dance. There's so much stigma and there's so much silence around this topic. And the Share My Story interviews say it's okay to talk about it. And I think it's important. It's fun as well, just to get to know you all and to, have that sense of I'm not the only one, because I think sometimes, eating disorders are so isolating. So tonight in the interview with Emma Mccullough, we're going to get to know her story. She's a student, she's a dancer, she's a member of the LGBTQ community, which is absolutely so important to lift those voices up and to introduce them into our narrative as well. So I'm going to bring her on. I'm so glad for anyone who's joining us right now, and I hope many more get a chance to hop on for this really cool conversation we're about to have. So Emma, I'm going to bring you in. Let's see. And let's see. Invite. All right. Hi, Lauren. Hello, Emma. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I just saw you 10 minutes ago, but
Yeah.
it's been so long.
Yep.
Well, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for reaching out to me. I sent out a post. I said, hey, I'm looking for dancers from the LGBT community to share their story. And you were like, hey, that's me. So thank you for putting yourself out there and be willing to share some more details about your life, your experience as a dancer, and how your recovery is going now, because you still are currently in eating disorder recovery.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to tell everybody just kind of a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll dive into the questions?
Yeah, sure. My name's Emma. I am 17 years old. Now technically I'm a senior in high school, but
Yay. It's
senior
almost over.
almost. uh, I pretty much a little bit's already been said. I have been dancing for quite a while. I really enjoy dance. Um, I am also bisexual. Part of the introduction, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've been in recovery
So,
for almost a year now, since September of 2020. So almost.
okay. So that's fairly new.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really recent. So thank you for um, wanting to hop on here because, that's things might be still, kind of, just kind of getting out of treatment too is a really interesting time. But I think that takes, it shows how much courage you have in it. Um, and we'll jump into sort of when that, the eating disorder kind of took hold. But it does take an immense amount of strength, and it takes an immense amount of courage to tell the eating disorder, no,
Yeah.
not this time, not me, not my life.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe that every dancer has everything that it takes to recover from their eating disorder. We are hardworking, committed, passionate, goal oriented, right? So when we turn all of those like basic the characteristics of us in the right direction towards health, towards wellness, towards recovery, it's like we're unstoppable. Get
Yeah.
out of the way. All right. So you mentioned in our conversation that you started at the age of 4, danced a little bit, got back into it about the age of 12,
Yeah.
right? And at the age of 12, you mentioned that it was an outlet for you. You were feeling happy. You enjoyed the creativity through movement. I think that is something that we lose when the eating disorder kind of takes hold. Is just the enjoyment through movement. You mentioned that you were kind of hard on yourself already at that time, and that you were thinking about feeling like you're always constantly making mistakes. What was that, what was that starting to be like for you when you were that little, having those hard thoughts?
Um, I mean, one thing I feel like that I don't know if it really I don't think it like caused the eating disorder, but um when I was around that age, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder as
Okay.
well. So like I think I had a lot of like self-doubt in my own thoughts. And like I know that kind of I guess caused some like critical thoughts about myself,
Mm-hmm.
like feeling like I
Mm-hmm.
was doing things correctly or like I don't know, just not being very confident. I guess that makes sense. Like
Yeah, that
fearing
makes
that
total sense.
yeah, like always fearing that something was gonna go wrong.
Was that in other areas of your life too? Was it just dance, or was it like in school or with friends?
Um, yeah, it was really with just like anything. Um, I don't know. I always just thought that the worst was gonna happen, that something was, I don't know, somehow gonna go wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, with like dance, I guess it like kind of like I felt like I was never, I guess, that good at what I did, if that makes sense.
Were you in, so you, when we were talking, you like to go by grades, right?
Yeah,
So what grade were you in at the time? This was
yeah,
before the competition team. So this was a 6th-ish grade.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because um, you had identified like some specific moments, because you talk about, sort of that leading up to the diagnosis. Were there moments in time where you thought, this is kind of where it started? And you'd mentioned that your thoughts about food were coming much more frequently. And um, you joined a competition team in 9th grade.
yeah.
Um, so and you were super involved, you were comfortable. So tell us about the studio. Tell us about your schedule.
Um, well, before the competition team, so from like 6th grade to 8th grade, I
Okay.
wasn't there that often, just like 3 nights a week, but like one class. Like so, it was like I only took like 3 classes for a while. Um, Nothing that serious. So it was more just like I'm just there for fun, nothing that serious. But I don't know. For the
Mm-hmm.
comp, it was still really fun. Like nothing like that changed, but it was definitely like harder classes because I had to take like ballet for the first time. Like I never really did ballet.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. I feel like a lot of dancers do ballet, but I for some reason didn't until I
Mm.
did comp. So like that was like new and difficult, and like I had to take like a technique class and like 2 comp classes, and like it was
Mm.
more advanced classes, I'd say, and it was more than I was used to taking. So I was
Mm-hmm.
there 4 or 5 nights out of the week now for like
Mm-hmm.
3 hours, 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big jump.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I was busy, but like I liked it. Like I explained to you a little bit. Like I
Oh
kind of
yeah.
having like a packed schedule and like having the pressure on me was kind of, I don't know, nice, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, did your OCD like bother you? Did that start like the obsessions and the critical kind of that critical voice that may be going along with the OCD? Did that start to increase when you got into more of a competitive environment, or was it about the same?
I mean, I'd say it was about the same. Like I don't know. The thing about OCD is like it really is hard to tell like um exactly what it is that's like
Mm-hmm.
causing it. I don't know.
No, totally.
So like I don't know. I feel like I mean definitely I noticed when I was taking like the first ballet class and like the technique class I was in, I was with like girls who were older than me a little bit and like who were a lot more advanced than me. Like they'd been dancing for a lot longer than me. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of always thought like, oh, I'm not doing it right. Like I'm gonna mess up this combination and I'm gonna mess up the turn or whatever it is. I had like that pretty. Sorry, I don't know how to talk. I had those kind of thoughts.
No, you're doing great.
Thank you.
Doing great.
I just had like I guess a lot of insecurity that like I wasn't
Mm.
good as everyone else there, and I don't
Yeah.
know.
Were you kind of where you were? I mean, you were trying something totally new, and you're young, and change can kind of increase our stress level. And if you're changing into like ninth grade, that's starting high school, right? And you're around, in more of a competition, and maybe more pressure to memorize choreography, and that can sometimes invite the negative thoughts. We'll try to like use those moments, I guess you'd say, right? Our mental illnesses, our mental health conditions like OCD or depression, it'll use those moments kind of against us instead of like allowing us to just enjoy it. The critical voice will come in. And you haven't mentioned anything yet about the food thing. That'll be we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to know what was going on in your life at the time. So outside of the studio, outside of your dancing at that time in about ninth grade, what was going on in your life?
Well,
That's a big question. I know.
yeah, there was like a lot of change, I think's the right word. Um, Around that time, just, I mean, the biggest thing was my mom moved, to a different state, and that's a whole story of like why and blah blah blah. But, she did, and my parents were already divorced, so I was like used to going like to my dad's and then my mom's. So it was like 50-50, but I like moved in with my dad full time and my mom just kind of, she moved, and um I would see her like a couple times a month cuz the state she lives in is Nevada, so it's like driving distance to California. Um but I definitely think that like that kind of, I think, that the eating disorder really spiked after that. So I think it was like a way for me to cope with
Hmm.
that big change, and then also just like the emotional stress that it has. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge, well, yeah. And I know, um, the same time, you know, 'cause I was like relate a little bit. I was at the same age as you when I moved away from home at 14 um, to study pre-professional classical ballet, and my whole world changed really quickly. Um, and I was just hoisted into this unfamiliar environment that I loved, but at the same time was like extremely stressful. So I can relate to that stress. I guess a lot of people call it emotional distress, where we're just like, you know, we overwhelmed. And as humans, you know, we're wired to survive and do what we can to survive, and we cope with whatever we can use to cope. So, you know, we do the best with what we have at the time. So that must have been, it sounds like it was a really stressful time for you. And the eating disorder, you said, started to kind of take hold. Your thoughts evolved, and you said something interesting. You didn't know at the time, but the earliest that you had thoughts or rules around food was sixth grade. But you mentioned in sixth grade that that's when you were diagnosed with depression, anxiety, or was that OCD?
I was diagnosed with OCD in 6th grade, and then
Okay.
I was diagnosed with depression in the 8th grade.
Okay, because this is like something that's super common is like when we're going through a lot of emotional distress, like feelings we can't seem to manage, you know, and mental health conditions like depression, OCD, it's not like the person's weak or like, why can't you handle this? Like, why can't you just, have you ever heard that? Why
Yeah.
can't you just,
Mhm.
you know, and it's not that it's just that our brain is like, nope, it needs more support. It's not just going to happen, you know? Um, so you mentioned that the food thoughts increased, and eventually it turned into this fixation, this obsession about fear of unhealthy food. So you started to go more into this fear of unhealthy food, um, diet related disease. So show me or tell me a little bit more about what was that like? Did that?
um, it was like it's always hard to like remember like when it first like the first time I had a thought, but like I
You don't have to get specific, just kind of a roundabout. Yeah.
I just remember I just started really really fearing like I said how healthy the food was. Pretty much like I don't know, because I now in recovery I've learned like all foods fit, so like I don't want to like stereotype foods, but like what what I didn't know was the eating disorder at the time was telling me that like foods with like lots of sugar or like not I don't know like junk food and fast food like treats like they were bad, and
Mm.
if I ate them I would feel a lot of guilt, and I'd feel like it's also very irrational. It was very irrational. Like I could have just like one food item, like just I had it, and then automatically it would the eating disorder would tell me like, now you're gonna get sick somehow. Like you're gonna
Mm.
this is gonna this is so unhealthy, and now you're gonna get
Mm.
some sort of diet related illness when you're 50 because of this one thing you
Mm.
ate. Like it was very random.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it had a little bit to do with the OCD, just because my OCD has always made me really like worried about my health, and like I have a big fear of like dying, and it's like it's
Mm.
crazy, but like I think that kind of had to do with that, just like fearing that I was gonna somehow like just like get sick
Mm.
and be unhealthy.
Yeah. A lot of fear, and that is absolutely what eating disorders consume us. We're consumed with fear. Sometimes, you know, been trying to explain it to people, whether it's an ed or it's the OCD, it's like trying to explain it and put it into words is difficult. So you're doing a great job articulating that what that's like, and I know a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. But yeah, that those places of fear and unknown, we latch on to what we can control, and food's right there. I remember I didn't know at the time, I was about the same age, that I had been abused in my past when I was younger. And to cope with it, I just tried to control my body. And it was like, if I can control my body, then I'll be safe. Or if I can control my size, I'll be good enough, or this or that. But it was always kind of a revolved around fear. And that's a big theme in a lot of our stories. So what was when you did you realized you didn't want help, what did it look like when you were finally at the point where the eating was sort of out of control? You mentioned something about your parents kind of stepping in and saying something.
Yeah. Well, just like as time progressed on, it just like the thoughts became not just about how healthy it was, and also about how much I could eat, when I could eat, fearing like, the calorie amount, and like all of those kind of eating disorder thoughts of like, did you exercise today? And all of the like rules around it. And it got really bad last year. And it got to the point where it was like affecting my health. And like the doctors, were concerned. And that's when my parents were like, yeah, like we got to do something about it. Cause like, I mean, at first I think they were I would be too, but I think they were confused on like what they were supposed to do. Like, what are we supposed to, it's a hard role to be in.
Yeah.
But I think when they finally had the doctor, because like the doctors said like she should go to treatment, and we have this place that we think she should go to. So they like, it was also the doctors who kind of made me go.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were mainly just concerned for me, and what I was doing to my body. And
did you see it as a problem?
Yes and no. Like I knew what I was doing. Like I knew that the behaviors I was doing and all the thoughts I were having were not like healthy. I knew that, but I obviously like wanted them really bad, so I didn't really care that I was doing, because I just wanted to have something I was in control over. Or
right. Yeah. And it goes, and it, we're the last to know sometimes how sick we are. And it takes people who are on the outside, who can see objectively, who are in the darkness that we're in mentally, and the emotional pain we're in. And so many of the things that we do when we're in amounts of emotional pain seem irrational to other people. Like, why are you doing that? Why would you do that? Like, don't you know this is dangerous? And we're like, and I'm not even connected to a lot of things. Sometimes when we're super sick, we're not even connected to reality, really. I know I wasn't. I went till the age of 24 living on diet pills and coffee, and I thought I was fine. I knew I had a problem, but I really was like, you know what, I got this. And it took, like you mentioned, doctors, and it took me going to the emergency room and being told by a doctor, you almost had a heart attack. You've got to stop or you're going to die. And I even remember then when he gave me the like life choice, I was frustrated with him. I was like, what do you mean I have only two choices to live or die? Like, can't I just do this half and half thing like I've been doing, And it took that push and my family going, no, you've got to do this. Be like,
Yeah, like I feel like it takes a long time to want to do it for yourself, and I'm still like
yeah.
in the process of really wanting it for myself, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, like it's so weird how like, because the same thing kind of happened to me. Like my parents and the doctors even told me, like, like if you keep doing this, you could die, and like that still is not enough to like really want to give up the eating disorder, because I was the same way. I was like, no, 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 there's a way that I could like fix myself, and like I could keep the eating disorder and I could get healthy again. I just like tried to convince everyone that I had it under control, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like, I know that if I had the choice myself, I wouldn't have joined for like recovery and done it. I did it because I wanted, I didn't want my parents to be upset with me, or I didn't want to worry them. But like, I don't know. I think the more that I did recovery, and like just the more I went through it, you learn more and more, or like you get more of that motivation to actually do it for yourself. And like I'm not 100% where I want to be. Like I still rely on them a lot, I guess, but I'm a lot better than I was in the beginning, I guess. If that makes sense.
Good for you. That's good. You are experiencing the journey, and thank you for your honesty by saying I'm still not quite sure, because that's where recovery's happening at that same time. Recovery's happening to you even when you're like, I'm not really sure if I want to do this anymore. I mean, you're still recovering, and that's kind of what the first stages of recovery are all about. And we're relying heavily, yes, on our support system to kind of keep us like, did I really say I wanted to do this? You did. I did. Are you sure? Yeah, I have you. Okay, fine. I'll take your word for it. Reread the journals, Amy, because it's going to bring it all back. Oh, that's how sick I was. I forgot, So you mentioned your parents. So they've played a supportive role for you. They really insisted that you go to treatment, and you mentioned even how much they were with you in sort of the daily process of recovery, the meals, but they never made you feel ashamed. They mainly showed like just concern, and kind of, you mentioned fear, but they were concerned, but they never actually made you feel bad about it. How did they do that, do you think?
I mean, they showed me, I guess, just like a lot of empathy, I would say. Just like, I mean, I guess definitely, I guess more for the fear part of it. They would, kind of question me, I guess, a little bit, just like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not trying to like blame them or anything. I just think it was hard for them to really understand, why it's so hard. And I think that's like the case. Anybody who doesn't have an eating disorder, like it's a lot easier to be like, just have the food, and like just like so like I know that they had a little bit of that, but they were also just like, I don't know, very like, when they would have those moments of like, Emma, it's like, it's just pasta, they would be like, oh, but I understand that like it's hard, and I don't know, I guess I just like, I always felt like they kind of understood, even if they didn't really understand why I was having this obsession about whatever it was. I knew that they like wouldn't judge me. They weren't judging me for it, and like, I don't know. I guess I just felt like safe and comfortable with whatever.
And they didn't have to like. So it's like they don't have to understand what it's like to have an eating disorder to understand when you're hurting, how hurt feels, or how what it is to be in a space where you need to depend on other people, like, so that listening non-judgmentally, and like the empathy, that's a huge part of helping a loved one or a friend with an eating disorder, just imagining, what is it like for them, because for your parents, it wasn't about them, it was about you. And it sounded like they really focused on, what would Emma need right now? What does Emma need to hear? You don't have to be a professional to help somebody and to encourage somebody. And it sounds like they, even with their own, not perfectly, we're perfectly imperfect people. They're learning and you're learning, but it sounds like were able to create a safe environment. And I think that's huge, because and not everybody has that. So that's a big blessing that you were able to have that with your parents. So are you currently dancing?
I am not currently dancing.
Okay.
I am still, it's kind of like, I guess, something I'm still deciding, because we go, my studio like runs, they start in September and then they go to June.
Okay.
So I took the last year off because of recovery, and I'm not sure yet, like, if I want to go back in September or not. Mainly just because I'm just nervous of what it's gonna be like. Mainly body image wise. I might talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. It's a stepping back into the environment, can be a big deal, especially when when things might be real new, kind of raw, or, something inside you saying, I'm just not quite sure. And that's your inner voice. Right. Yeah. And it sounds like you're just allowing it to just sort of just figuring it out, allowing that to just figure itself out. Yeah. It doesn't sound like you're like, I have to go back to dance and I have to get back to comp and I got to do this, which is really good, because, you stop for a year, give your body a chance, and I'll read at the ending the beautiful advice that you give to other dancers, about what you would say to them and how you would encourage them. Do you think dance caused your eating disorder?
I don't think, no, it didn't cause I think I had a eating disorder thoughts at dance. Just like the entire environment was really accepting, there wasn't any body talk, and nobody really your body wasn't even part of it, so it was really, I really liked that, that you weren't shamed or anything, or told you need to, I don't know, I envision that being really hard, so that was awesome. And I guess it was wasn't like that, but I think I just think the part where my eating disorder kind of came in with dance was the physical movement piece that my eating disorder likes or liked. It wasn't to the point where I didn't enjoy dance, because I did it because I enjoyed it, not because I wanted to satisfy the eating disorder. But I know that it helped my eating disorder feel good, because it knew that I was moving my body, and that's something that my eating disorder has always relied on a lot, physical movement.
Well, we're also when we're dancing and when we are tuned into our body, because we're focusing on our body, right? Moving our body and looking at our body and checking our body, and you use the words that it took advantage of that, and fighting it and breaking free is taking your power back. It's taking back dance and taking back movement and saying, no, that's mine. You're not going to weaponize something that makes me happy, that makes me feel free and feel good, you know? And to be able to identify that that's what Ed does is really, really good. So congratulations for that, because that's a big step in understanding your eating disorder and when it likes to sneak in. And if you know when it likes to sneak in, that's when you can kind of have a plan of attack back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When did you first identify as LGBTQ?
I identified in like the summer of 2020, I'd say, around there.
Yeah. And what was it like for you to talk about that and to just kind of discover that's about yourself?
Um, it was a little, I don't know, weird and confusing at first.
Yeah.
I just like, I went through that phase of like feeling like I was, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. Like I felt like I
That's okay.
faking it or like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I went through like a weird thing where the friends that I had at the time were all part of the LGBTQ community, and I had like insecurity, like, oh, I feel like I don't fit in, and so I was like,
Yeah.
I started having thoughts about like what my sexuality was, and but I was telling myself like, no, like you're just trying to find a way for your friend group to like accept you and for you to fit in with them, and like so that so I was like convinced myself that I was kind of just like making it up for attention or whatever it was. But then I actually like stopped being friends with them like when COVID hit, because a lot of I don't know, a lot of
Oh my
stuff
gosh.
went down then.
Changed
And
everything.
yeah, and like I feel like that gave me a lot of time to actually figure that out, and like I wasn't friends with them anymore, and I was like still having the thoughts about it. So like I guess I realized like, okay, it's not about my friends. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, I mean, in the summer of 2020, I pretty much knew. I was like, yeah, I know, but I think it was like when I actually like a little bit after I started recovery was when I like was open about it, because I don't know, I feel like recovery just helped me learn a lot about myself, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of knew.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. You're taking a good look at everything, you know? It's like they want you to talk about it. They're like, let's take a look at this. No, I don't want to, Just like, I kind of like being sick. Wait a second. No, I don't. I don't know. I'm confused. Yeah. There was a lot going on at the time. What's helped you cope? We talked about that before. You'd mentioned two, I think, really important things. The support of others who struggle with eating disorders was probably the best. Why
Yeah.
is that? Why is that?
I don't know. I just think like the comfort of knowing that like other people know what you're going through, or like they're going through the same thing, not like that you're glad that they're going through it, but like,
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm not the only one
yeah,
suffering.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
somebody else knows, what I'm feeling, what I'm going through.
Sure. Yeah, they get it. Like just knowing people get it, because it's so confusing. Like
Yeah.
people just, like when they don't get it, they don't get it. And it feels like, why don't people understand me,
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I was just like kind of, I don't know, because I learned in recovery that like, and like being around supportive people, like that you don't really have to like hide it. And like for a while I like never really told anybody like the thoughts I was having. And being in a place like a treatment center that has like a bunch of people who like talk about it, and
Sure.
it's like a really open topic, I guess it was just like really nice to like, I don't know, have a bunch of people to like talk to about it, and then hear, I don't know, like hearing about what they went through like was like helpful for me in a way, like having it be so similar, and like I don't know, it was just like really nice to just feel like, and like just people there were so nice. Like I can't even like explain this. Like it was just like such a loving, like I guess, community of people. So like it just like the comfort that it kind of gave felt like nice, and I don't know.
Yes. Well, that is a place where we can let our guard down and make ourselves vulnerable and just and heal. And it sounds a lot like that space that they created in there, and this hearing that these things were so similar is sort of what this Share My Story initiative is all about. Is like, it's nice to hear that, okay, this isn't just me. There's other people that can relate, and that they understand, and that they care. And I'm not alone. And we can create spaces for ourselves to come together, to say, hey, me too. Let's use it. What skills are you using? Did you take your meds today? It's whatever it might be. And so I asked you what you would say. I asked you what you would say to someone who is struggling, and your answer was beautiful. And I'm going to read it if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, so I asked you what you would say to someone who's struggling, and you said, I would want to say that you aren't alone, that others know what you're going through, and you don't have to do it alone. I know things feel really hard and scary right now, but there is help out there. There is a way out. I want to show you that recovery is possible. I was in the same boat as you, terrified and convinced there is no way I would leave the eating disorder, but I did. And I'm so much happier now. I just got chills reading it again. That is such a message of hope that we can all cling to. And I know you're probably, and just congratulations, Emma, for how far you've come. And on those days where you feel discouraged, on those days where you're like, do I even want to do this, right? Just remember that you are doing it. And you're doing it well. And that recovery is messy. I think everybody listening to this and who will watch this can agree recovery is messy and sometimes really confusing. We're in and out, so what kind of skills are you using right now to take care of you? Like what skills are you really clinging onto? Anything in particular?
I mean, I guess just like, I was kind of similar things that I was doing in treatment. Like just like distraction and just like doing things that make me, I don't know. Sorry, there's a plane going by.
I can't hear it.
Okay.
Let me imagine.
I can hear it. So
okay. Yeah, I can hear it too now.
Just like doing things that I enjoy to do, like whether it's painting or listening to music or watching a show, being with family, like just like I've noticed, doing something, I don't know how to put it into words, but just like doing something puts me in a good mood, and then I don't know, it just helps me with the motivation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But also just like self-care, I guess, whether it's like meditating or even sleeping sometimes, like taking a nap.
Shutting it off, like just shutting the brain off, having a break.
Yeah.
I love taking wellness naps. They're different than the depression sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? The depression sleeping is an abyss that it's really hard to crawl out of, and you wake up tired. The wellness naps are just like, I think my body's feeling, depleted, or it just needs to a rest. And it's like, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to respond to that with, sure, you can. Like, it's okay. That perfectionist, eating disorder sometimes will browbeat us into going, well, no, because you've got all this stuff to do, and remember, if you don't move around more, and it just all it does is talk. But yes, taking those breaks. I love the distraction. I use opposite to emotion. It helps me because my emotions can be, I have bipolar 2 disorder. So sometimes my emotions are all over the place. And sometimes I just have to do what I know is real, what I know is true. Distraction's really great. Journaling's really helpful. I like painting. It sounds like that might be an outlet for you. So yeah, and that's what, recovery is about, utilizing all of those things and being open to welcoming new things and different things that for a while things worked, but once the different phases of recovery things begin to change, our needs will begin to change, and you'll probably learn a lot more about yourself along the way, maybe even gather some new interests, which is kind of exciting. You never know, you might pick up playing the flute. You just never know.
Yeah.
So one last thing before we wrap up. One final question. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put your answers into a blog post, because there's some good stuff in here that you shared that we weren't able to talk about. I think people would really get a lot out of it. The last thing is I asked you if you could say anything to your eating disorder, what would it be? Do you want to hear your response? You're like, I already know.
Yeah.
You said, I would tell it that I did it. I didn't listen to its lies, and I did recovery. And I'm a lot better now, and I don't need its rules. So go. That is exactly true. Yes, you broke out of that silent space, and you're doing that. And I think that message is just for everyone tonight listening, or wherever you are, that you can do this, that you are not alone. And yes, it's hard, but just know we can do hard things. And we're stronger, much, 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 much stronger than we realize. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we end this evening? Any final words?
I mean, I would just like to thank you for having me on. It was really fun, and I really love to I don't know, just talk about it and hopefully help people feel understood, or they're not alone. I just know how it feels to I don't know, feel like you're the only one who deals with this thoughts or whatever. But yeah, I just really hope that my story helped anyone feel comforted or motivated or inspired, or I don't know.
Can people reach out to you through Instagram?
Yeah, I love helping. I don't know, I have weird part of me that just loves helping people.
I have it too. I don't know what it is. It's like I can't stop. It's a good thing to not be able to stop. Yeah. It's helping people. What's your account that you want them to contact on Instagram?
Just this one's fine. ED Recovery with Emma.
Okay. ED Recovery with Emma. Everybody. Okay, Emma. Well, thank you again so much. Thank you, everyone, for sharing these moments with us. And I will talk to you all soon. Okay? Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.